Welcome! Thank you so much for joining me on the Socially Delightful podcast. I'm Jewel, human connection enthusiast and your host, and this show is all about delighting in yourself, delighting in socializing and in others, and creating truly supportive, delightful friendships and relationships, even in our modern world with our modern stress. In this podcast, we have fun creating a new culture of living in social delight. Now let's dive into how we're going to do that today. First episode, oh my gosh. Okay, wow. There's a part of me that is so excited and feels so good about everything I wrote. And then there's another part of me that is really afraid y'all are going to think that this is cringe and I'm cringe and you're not going to want to come back. So, yeah. The afraid part of me is just my brain trying to keep me socially and emotionally safe and make sure that I'm not exiled and die alone. So that's fun. Literally, when I first started recording this podcast and this episode, literally that part of me that's afraid, I literally went to, how many times can I say literally? Apparently one more. I literally went to, oh my gosh, let me think about all of the people that could totally hate this podcast, including an ex of mine and his friends, and they will probably make fun of this at like their next bonfire or something. So that's fun. Also, my brain is going to that place of, oh my gosh, like I gotta make sure that I do this right so that way no one judges me. And if no one judges me, I can be safe, emotionally safe. But feeling safe does not come from doing things right, and we will be talking more about that in today's episode. Now, if you are watching this and you're like, what did I click on? And if you are like, how can you identify as a confident and secure and socially delighted person and be saying this stuff, Jewel? Don't socially confident people not care what other people think? I mean, how can I have the audacity to create a podcast called the Socially Delightful Podcast and probably cringe when I send this to the editor? Hey, James. Well, spoiler alert, this is a part of my process and a part of my work and a part of my message that I really want to share with you. And you are just watching me do it in real time because embracing my humanness and my imperfection is what helps me feel alive. It helps me feel more confident. It is what makes me delight in my human self just as I am and connect with more people because of my imperfection, not in spite of it. Sounds cheesy, but it's true. And it is why I chose today's topic, social perfectionism, for the very first episode, because learning how to manage social perfectionism has truly changed my life. And I wish it was talked about more. Plus, this episode about social perfectionism is going to answer the most common question that I get. How do I stop caring what people think, but also get them to like me? Short answer, you don't, but we will talk about what you can do, so stay with me. Now, before I completely dive in to this topic, this is the first episode, and this is the episode that, people 5 years from now could come and click on and that they will start with. So there's something that I need to get off my chest. There is a lot of change that we need to make happen in our societies in order to really foster connection, be human-centric, and honestly, be eco-friendly and equitable. And I want to talk about those things, educate on those things, and honor that those things are real and they have oppressed groups of people and put us all in this loneliness epidemic. And my goal with this podcast is to help you understand those things while also feeling empowered and not like doom and gloom. Empowered to enjoy socializing, to make friendships that are more meaningful, and to help you feel damn good about yourself in social settings so that socializing is more fulfilling while advocating for those societal structures to change. So here's my mission. Here's what I'm really going to do. And I'm going to be imperfect at it. It's the theme. I don't know. I'm going to be imperfect at it, but I'm going to do my best to share education on all things connection, including the societal structures that impact them, entertaining stories. So this is a fun place to hang out and listen to, a place where you can give feedback. And I'm going to share self-help concepts without the indoctrination that you need to constantly be better, and without self-help that has hints of shame underneath its messages, but instead self-help that is evidence-based and that helps you embrace your enoughness and lights you up. So that way you leave these episodes feeling good about yourself, good about others, and have a bit more pep in your step, because don't we all need that? So it's an ambitious goal. I'm going to be imperfect at it. And I hope that when I am imperfect, that we can agree to communicate compassionately as far as feedback goes, but I welcome it. Feedback is welcome here. Let me know your thoughts about anything and everything in the comments. I genuinely want to know. And like I will talk about in today's episode, I am also emotionally safe enough with myself to handle that and to take that in. All right. Disclaimer, message in the world aside, let's dive in. So, what is social perfectionism? If you've never heard of this before, social perfectionism is having a very high expectations for your social performance and then becoming really critical when those expectations aren't met. So Psychology Today says that socially prescribed perfectionists are very self-critical, feel immense pressure to be the best, worry that others will reject them, and that this can lead to high anxiety and low confidence. This was textbook me. I mean, think about it. Trying to say the right things at the right time in the right way to get the right reactions of people just to prove that you were worthy? Not so fun. I would know. And on this podcast, we're going to be talking so much more about how our modern world has disconnected us and has kept us lonely, like I said. And we won't be getting too much into that today, but it is important to note that our world fuels social perfectionism as well, through expectations, especially for those of us socialized as women, through societal expectations, through social media, through this narrative of be productive all the time, be better, more. There are external pressures to get it right. And that includes social situations as well. Now, I had spent the majority of my life having social perfectionism consume me. And I am not going to sit here and pretend that I am like completely healed and that I never have socially perfectionistic thoughts. But the honest truth is I have massively grown my skills around it. I really feel like I have a different nervous system inside of me. I feel like my socially perfectionistic thoughts are really just a pebble in a big old koi pot. Coin? I really truly feel like my socially perfectionistic thoughts are like a pebble in a big koi pond. Got it that time. And here's how social perfectionism consumed me. I would have a social event on my calendar, and I would have this perfectionistic fantasy about how to do everything right. You know, like I would walk in and everyone would look at me and smile because, oh, Jewel is here. And I captivate people with stories when I tell them, and I leave the party knowing that I handled it all just right. But then, right when something didn't align with this fantasy, and like little things too, when someone would turn away and greet someone else walking in rather than listen to me finish my sentence, or when someone didn't laugh at my joke and just smiled, when I stumbled over my words, kind of like I've already done a lot in this episode, I would later leave the event, get in my car, and cry. And overthink everything I said and did, and overthink everyone's reactions, and make a vow to be better next time, to be the best next time, so that way I could think that I was worthy. You see, I never thought that I had social anxiety because I felt like I could perform socially to some degree. But what do you call all of the suffocating from all of the pressure I put on myself to be perfect, and then suffering for how I beat myself up after social events? What do you call looking at other people's micro expressions as a way to measure if you are worthy or not? And this habit that I did with myself, it also extended outwards, y'all. I saw all of my close relationships through this lens too. Like, oh, they didn't like what I said, or they got a little slightly annoyed with me. They must hate me, and I must be unworthy and unlovable and should probably distance myself from them. Yeah, super fun. I didn't feel close or accepted by people, even though I had good friends. I was a socially perfectionistic extrovert. And what a painful experience that is. Side little note, side quest here. If you're familiar with attachment theory, most insecure attachments are likely to have socially perfectionistic thoughts on some level. Fun fact. Now, in my story, I really thought that showing up correctly in social situations was important. I thought that being socially perfect was my answer to feeling confident and good about myself, to feel loved and lovable. And of course I thought this. I mean, think about the mentality that I was having. Ground counseling gives examples on social perfectionistic thoughts. Some of them being like, I must be perfect so others will value and accept me. My value and worth depend on what people think of me. My value and worth depend on my achievements. That will be a topic for another day, by the way, trying to get social safety through success. And being anxious and fearful means that I'm weak and defective. And in order to like myself, I must show up perfectly. And of course, in the long run, that socially perfectionistic mentality harms us. After thinking thoughts like that over and over and over again, we will have lower confidence and lower self-esteem, and it will be harder to maintain healthy relationships, let alone feel connected to other people. This can take a lot out of us. It can take us out of the present moment with other people and increase our feelings of anxiety. This is why social perfectionism is a social delight cock block. I don't know if I can say that on here. If I can't on YouTube and you know better, my editor, you can cut it. But this is why social perfectionism is a social delight block. But if you're like, oh yeah, makes sense. But why do we have these socially perfectionistic thoughts in the first place? Well, social perfectionism comes from us trying to make sure that we are socially and emotionally safe. If we do everything right, we aren't going to be rejected, right? And oh my gosh, like so many of my clients say this, but they will say, well, if I don't worry about if I'm socially perfect, how can I ensure that I'm liked and feel confident and loved? How would I get to feel like a charming person if I wasn't worried about how I was socially performing? This is why social anxiety, social perfectionism are here in a way, because it serves us. We have adapted to be socially conscious and to make sure that we belong in the group. And think about it. Think about people in the cave days, during the primitive times, right? Not being a part of a group meant that you probably weren't going to survive. There is a very human, innate reason that we care about belonging to a group, that we have like social awareness, that we are socially conscious, right? On some level, we are always going to be kind of conscious of our socializing. And that's okay. But when we don't know how to really be emotionally safe with ourselves, when we let social perfectionism run how we operate and try to be emotionally safe through that social perfectionism, in the long run, it just hurts our confidence and our relationships with others. It doesn't actually serve us, even though it feels really important. But we bypass social perfectionism by having our own backs if we are socially imperfect. We have our own backs by knowing that if someone does judge us, we are going to be safe with ourselves. We are going to be there for ourselves. We're not going to make it mean that we're not worthy. I will tell more stories on this podcast about moments when I found out that people were judging me, including my old best friend's mom making fun of me, and how those were actually some of the most empowering moments of my life, truly. But they were really empowering because I was safe with me. When I found out my best friend's mom was making fun of me, I actually felt closer and more connected to myself because of how I treated myself when that happened. Because of how I didn't judge myself. I didn't make it mean all of these things about me or even about other people. I just made it mean that something was going on with them. All this to say, I was able to do that because I am safe with me. I know that if someone judges me, I'm not going to make it mean anything about me. I am emotionally safe with me. Embracing your imperfections will also help you show up more authentically. It will help you attract the people that are about you and that you can create fulfilling relationships with. And through this podcast, I want to find more people that are about me, that see me in my imperfections and my authenticity and are like, yes. And I want you to feel so good about yourself that you attract your own support group, your people that come to you because of who you are. There are groups out there for all of us, and we want to find our groups by being utterly ourselves, not trying to squeeze ourselves into these groups, into these spaces, into this uncomfortable, painful, perfect vision, perfect fantasy that we have. And that's what this podcast will be all about. Embracing social imperfectionism, connecting with yourself and enjoying yourself so damn much that you feel delighted to show up and to be you. When you are so yourself, so connected with you, this is what really allows you to be socially delighted and connect with people in a meaningful way. This is what allows you to feel like you are charming and get compliments like, oh my gosh, girl, your energy. The only way for you to be socially delighted and to enjoy and for other people to be drawn to you and be delighted to be with you is through them feeling safe with you, and that comes from you being authentic. Because when you are performing, you aren't connecting. When you are focused on being socially perfect, you aren't really connecting to people. This is why social perfectionism, even though it feels necessary to avoid rejection, this is why it is such a connection block, because it is the thief of the joy of being yourself. It's a thief of true presence and connection with others, because when you are trying to be socially perfect, you aren't giving others a chance to really see you and connect with you. When you are trying to be socially perfect, you aren't feeling that connection in your body. Authenticity is damn near impossible, and authenticity is necessary for you to feel connected to anyone. Saying the right things at the right time in the right way doesn't help you feel that connection, that emotion in your body. Also, the absence of fear and cringe isn't attractive. We think it is. That was one of those thoughts, right? Like, if I am fearful or weak, it means I'm defective. But the absence of fear and cringe isn't attractive. In other words, having no social anxiety, saying everything perfectly at the right time, it's not actually going to attract people to you. In a lot of cases, you being socially imperfect is going to attract people to you. I mean, think about it. Like, what if I came here and I was like, hey girlies, I'm gonna help you do social settings. All right, every social situation, you are gonna handle it perfectly because I always do it right. Would you feel connected to me? No. People aren't connected to perfection in robots. They are connected the most when they get to be like, oh my gosh, me too. And we give others opportunities to have those, oh my gosh, me too moments when we own our imperfections. Now, this story that I'm about to share, it's truly embarrassing, a little out there, and some of y'all are never going to want to listen to this podcast again. And it's vulnerable. But once Oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm going to do this. But my friend said to me once, isn't it uncomfortable when you are talking to someone and a glob falls out of your vagina? She said that to me. My friend said this to me. And not only did it crack me the hell up like it is right now, but it made me admire her. It really did. It made me admire how sure of herself that she was. And it made me think, oh my God, me too. And I felt so much more comfortable with myself and so much more connected with her. In that moment, by her sharing that, I was drawn to her. Not by her being perfect and robotic and inhuman, but by her being very human. So, if being socially perfectionistic increases anxiety, hurts meaningful connection, and lowers our self-esteem, what does social perfectionism really do for us in the long run? I mean, just on a day-to-day basis, if you embrace social perfectionism a little bit more when you leave here today, watch your whole day change. Let yourself fumble. Say the thing that others might disagree with. Say the compliment to that person even though it feels vulnerable. Admit that you're a bit nervous. Allowing yourself to be imperfect will also help you build up your resilience to being rejected. 2, having that emotional safety within yourself that we talked about. Like, oh, you saw me fumble? And the more you embrace it, you aren't going to say the right thing at the right time, the right way, and you're going to get the right reactions of people beaming back at you. The more you embrace it, you aren't going to do that. The more you can own who you are and enjoy. And I mean, what is more magnetic than someone enjoying themselves? What is more magnetic and charming than someone not being in their own head about their social performance, but instead being genuinely interested in you, that are owning who they are? What is more fun? What is more fulfilling? And it takes practice, y'all. I don't want you to actually be perfectionistic about no longer having social perfectionistic thoughts. Be compassionate. This takes practice. And I am here for you. I am here for you on this journey. And I know I said it. Well, first of all, I said social perfectionism a bajillion times, but I know I also said it many times in this episode about my goal for this podcast. But my goal truly is so much more than teaching evidence-based, research-backed information on friendship and connection in our modern world. Because for each episode, each week, really my goal is for that when you hit play, you feel your shoulders drop. Every week, I want you to come to this podcast and feel delighted to be you. To have that pep in your step, to feel like dancing all around your house, dancing as you're going on your walk in your neighborhood. Who cares? Every week, I want you to belong so much to yourself that you are able to belong anywhere. And I want you to be an example of what it means to delight in yourself to others around you, to impact others by you doing this. I want you to have your cup so filled up that you're able to create more connection and togetherness with everyone around you. And so, another goal is for me every week to be an example of me doing that. And that involves me being very honest about all my damn feelings, my humanness, and even the things about me that I don't particularly love. And it's going to be challenging at times, for sure. But that is my vow to you, you delightful human, to lean into it all. Because it really is this work that allows us to delight more in ourselves and others. And if you decide not to agree with the part of me that fears that this is a piece of shit, then you are cordially invited. You are cordially invited to this party of exploring what it means to be a socially delighted human together. And if you do think that this is a piece of shit and that I'm so cringe, that is okay too. Truly. I see you in your preferences, or I see you in your protective mechanisms or your preferences. And you are always welcome to come join us in this party. So with that being said, my heart being full of connection and delight and nerves, go be brave enough to be socially imperfect. You got this. Go focus more on enjoying and embracing yourself rather than trying to get a social situation right. And let me know how it goes. And I'll see you in the next episode. By the way, the next episode is me explaining to my best friends how I made them my friends. And I've never actually told them that before. So go see how they feel about it. Thanks for joining me on the Socially Delightful podcast. I'm Jewel, and I'm truly so grateful that you came and hung out with me today. If this podcast meant something to you, it would mean so much to me if you left me a review so that way I could keep making content that you love. And if you really want to make my whole day, share this podcast to your Instagram story and tag me at Connection with Jewel so I can shout you out. Or send me a message and let me know what resonated with you or what you want to hear next. And I'll see you at the next episode.